Heartwarming encounter. Teacher discovers hidden billionaire father after helping lost child in Maplewood. The golden leaves spiraled down from the trees, painting the park with warm hues of orange and red. Sarah, a devoted single mother and passionate elementary school teacher, smiled as she watched her 8-year-old son, Liam, run joyfully through the fallen leaves. The air was crisp, filled with the joyous laughter of children and the sweet scent of pumpkin spice wafting from nearby stalls. She breathed deeply, wishing it could always be this perfect. But behind her smile, Sarah wrestled with the weight of her responsibilities. Balancing her role as a teacher and being a mother was no easy feat, especially now, as she organized a charity event to support struggling families during the holiday season. The few hours between lessons and picking Liam up from school felt like an endless race against time. It was in these moments that she hoped Liam noticed her resilience, that desire within her fueled by love and necessity. Yet, amidst the chaotic preparations, fate had a plan. As she turned away from the stalls, a small, frightened voice broke through the laughter. "Mommy!" A boy stood there, tears streaming down his cheeks, his big brown eyes mirroring Liam's vulnerability. There was an instinctual urge to comfort him. Sarah knelt, heart aching for the child. "Hey there, buddy. What's wrong?" "I can't find my dad," he cried, the sheer panic in his voice tugging at the deepest layers of her heart. Sarah took a deep breath, gathering her courage. Swiftly, she enlisted the help of passing bystanders to search for the boy's father. Not long after, she learned that the frantic father was none other than Nathaniel Becker, a name that sent ripples through her community. The town's reclusive billionaire, infamous for the factory that loomed over their beloved Maplewood, creating jobs, but also discomfort and resentment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she dialed Nathaniel's number. She had heard the whispers the man had wealth that separated him from people like her, who struggled to make ends meet. When he arrived, she could sense the weight he carried, an aura of isolation cloaked in his tailored suit. Their eyes met, and an awkward silence draped over them like heavy fog. It felt as though a line had been drawn, a chasm divided them, riddled with judgments and misunderstandings. But as they navigated through introductions and explanations, Sarah's persistent kindness began to thaw the chill encasing Nathaniel's heart. They shared stories of parenting, woven with laughter and raw emotion. Each revelation pulled at the threads of their lives, stitching together something fragile yet beautiful. However, beneath this delicate connection, tension lingered, simmering just below the surface. Just when Sarah allowed herself to hope for a budding friendship that could bridge their divide, a sudden crisis struck their community, a devastating event that threatened the very fabric of her charity event. The future of struggling families, her own family included, hung in the balance. Her heart raced with urgency and protectiveness, battling the desire for vengeance against the man she knew had contributed to the inequalities tormenting Maplewood. As chaos erupted around them, Sarah's mind swirled with conflicting thoughts. Could true understanding rise from the division between them? And as the crisis enveloped their lives, she was left with one haunting question. Would Nathaniel Becker step forward to help the community he had overlooked? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she stood at the forefront of the unfolding chaos. The news of the fire at the community center zipped through the crowd like a lightning bolt, transforming the cheerful atmosphere into one of dread. Light-hearted laughter faded, replaced by the anxious murmurs of parents clutching their children and exchanging worried glances. She observed Nathaniel as he struggled with the shock. His expression morphed from worry for his son to something deeper, some flicker of realization igniting in his eyes. The factory that he owned, the very thing Maplewood relied upon, was the same entity that had continued to overshadow the community with its complications, a bittersweet relationship. "Sarah, what do we do?" Nathaniel's voice cut through her racing thoughts, laced with urgency. She could see beneath his polished exterior. He was just a father, desperate to protect his child. This moment of vulnerability was illuminating. "I need to reach out to the people I know, resources, supplies," she replied, determination stealing over her fear. As she turned her back to him, she kicked into action. Her mind mapped out a plan, but the biggest question loomed large. Would Nathaniel help? Time blurred as she flew through the crowd, gathering supplies and information, quick phone calls punctuated by the urgent pleas for assistance from fellow teachers, parents, and even students. "We need blankets, food, water." The community buzzed into action, but it was not enough. Nathaniel caught up to her, visibly shaken but resolute. "I can help. My company has resources, trucks down the street. We can deliver supplies." Sarah turned to him, a mix of skepticism and hope dancing in her expression. Could she really trust him? It felt wrong to accept what he offered. After all, his wealth had created the very divide they tried to bridge. "Do you care about them? Every one of those families?" she asked, her voice firm. Painful memories of hollow promises rattled in her mind. "More than you know," Nathaniel replied, his voice low but full of emotion. "I just got lost in the business, the numbers. I want to make a difference." Something deep inside Sarah softened. Perhaps they were both wearing masks, hiding their vulnerabilities under layers of expectations. "Then let us do this together," she finally said. In that moment, everything changed. They weren't just destined adversaries. They were allies thrown together by fate, united under the fire that threatened to consume their community. As they rushed toward his waiting trucks, Sarah couldn't help but glimpse a flicker of something new. Together, they could rise above the past. She felt hope blossom amid her uncertainty. The hours melted away as logistics turned into a flurry of activity. They organized volunteers, processed donations, all while working side by side. It was a delicate dance, shifting from awkward silence to shared laughter as they encountered hurdles and solved problems. But through the intricate rush, tension still lingered, especially as Sarah spotted Nathaniel's son anxiously searching for his father. It brought her back to the moment they first met, a deep reminder of how fragile life could be. As dusk began to chase the day out of the sky, Sarah stood outside, surveying the progress they had made. The community was coming together against all odds. But just as a sense of accomplishment washed over her, she felt a presence beside her. "Thank you, Sarah," Nathaniel said softly, the words carrying the weight of newfound respect. "What is next?" she asked, curiosity flickering in her chest. "What if we work together beyond today?" he proposed, vulnerability threading through his tone. "What if this is the beginning of something more for our families in this town?" The question hung in the air like a promise yet to be fulfilled. Sarah felt the cold night wrap around her, uncertainty mingling with anticipation. Could she truly allow a man like him into her life and the life of her son? The spark of connection was undeniable, yet the path ahead was clouded with complications. As she looked into Nathaniel's earnest eyes, only one thought resonated: was she ready to take that leap of faith? What came next would shape their future, and potentially, Maplewood's as well. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the chaos. Sarah stood at the crossroads of her past and an uncertain future. The day had been relentless, yet exhilarating, and her heart beat faster at the thought of what came next. Together, she repeated softly, almost to herself, letting the words settle in. Could her partnership with Nathaniel really extend beyond this moment? She watched as he shifted nervously, the uncertainty mirrored in his troubled gaze. "About what you said," she started, trying to keep her voice steady. "I appreciate the offer, but what does that really mean for us?" The questions and doubts hung heavily between them. Before Nathaniel could respond, distant sirens wailed, slicing through the stillness. The sound cut deeper into Sarah's chest. "That means there's still work to be done," she said, her determination returning as she turned her attention back to the community center. They piled supplies into the truck, cases of water, blankets, and bags of food. Volunteers buzzed around like busy bees, fueled by a sense of unity. They were strangers once, now bonded by their shared urgency to help those affected by the fire. Sarah found solace in their efforts. But as they continued to load, Nathaniel reached for her arm, halting her busy movements. "I mean it, Sarah," he insisted, his voice low enough for only her to hear. I want to know your thoughts on the future of our community. We could do more together than apart. His gaze held her captive. The authentic concern behind his words sparked a warmth in her heart. I want to believe that, she admitted, vulnerability lacing her tone. But I need to know that this is more than just a business transaction. It's not just business for me, he admitted, his expression softening. I see the faces of those who need help. I want to change how we do things, make it better. Not just for my son, but for everyone. Together, we can truly make a difference. As night settled in, they climbed into the cab of the truck and pulled away from the scene. The streets were filled with soft chatter, families coming together to share stories of loss and hope. Sarah's heart swelled with pride at the sight. They arrived at the temporary shelter set up at the school gym. People streamed in, hearts heavy but faces determined. Sarah felt a collective force pushing them forward, a tidal wave of compassion drawing her closer to Nathaniel as they rolled up. Nathaniel looked at her with a refreshed vigor. What if we start a community initiative? Something sustainable that empowers families, not just in times of crisis, but every day? She studied him closely, trying to decipher his earnestness. Can we really make that a reality? With everything else going on? Why not? He challenged, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. You're a teacher. You know what these people need. I can provide the funding. Together, we can channel the spirit of this community into something extraordinary. His words sent a spark through her. The past few hours had ignited something within her, a flicker of hope that felt tangible. They stepped out of the truck, the cool night air wrapping around them like an embrace of possibility. But just as Sarah began to envision their future in Maplewood, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Fumbling to pull it out, her heart sank as she read the incoming message, and Nathaniel's expression faltered as he watched her face drain of color. What is it? It's about the fire. There are rumors about more coming. Someone is not done with this. Fear washed over her, replacing the optimism they just shared. How could they face the challenges ahead when they hadn't even established their ground? Sarah, what do we do? Nathaniel's voice rose, echoing her own internal panic. First, we keep everyone safe. We need to regroup and make sure everyone knows. But the tremor in her hands belied her calm words. As they prepared for another wave of uncertainty, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that more was at stake than just the community center, or even the town itself. Nathaniel turned to her, a determination igniting in his eyes. I'm with you. Whatever it takes, we'll face this together. But as the looming threat hung over them, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were truly ready for what lay ahead, and what sacrifices would be demanded from them to protect everything they hoped to build. The night air thickened with tension as they hurried back into the shelter, gears turning for the next battle. Could they turn this fear into strength, or would it unravel everything? Inside the gym, the atmosphere shifted. The low hum of conversation rose and fell like waves, filled with whispers of hope mixed with the sharp edge of anxiety. Sarah glanced around, counting familiar faces, neighbors, friends, the fabric of Maplewood's resilience. She felt Nathaniel at her side, the warmth of his presence providing a fragile sense of comfort in the storm brewing outside. Let us gather everyone, Nathaniel suggested, his voice steadying her jittery nerves. We can tell people what we know and what we need to do. Sarah nodded, her heart racing as they made their way to the center of the gym. The overhead lights flickered slightly, casting shadows that danced on the walls, a poignant reminder of the chaos that had swept through their town. Silence fell as they stood before a crowd of expectant faces, eyes reflecting a mix of fear and determination. Everyone, thank you for being here, Sarah started, her voice wavering at first but gaining strength as she glanced at Nathaniel. We're facing uncertainty, but together we can prepare for what is ahead. We've heard rumors of new fires, and we need to be ready. A murmur ran through the crowd. Someone in the back spoke up. Do you really think they'll come back? Yes, Nathaniel interjected, stepping in closer, his tone firm yet compassionate. But we can set up a system to alert each other. We need to stay connected and united. That energizing thought spread like wildfire through the crowd. Ideas began to stir. Sarah's heart swelled again, people stepping up, with fear transforming into action. It was beautiful and inspiring, but the weight of what lay ahead still pressed down on her chest. They split up into groups, discussing safety plans, stocking emergency supplies, and looking after the most vulnerable among them, seniors and families with young children. The intensity in the room grew richer. Lifelong acquaintances were sharing suggestions and offering support for those who had lost it all. As Sarah worked the room, she glanced over and caught sight of Nathaniel anchoring a small group, his charisma illuminating the dim gym. She watched as he made everyone laugh, weaving warmth into the gravity of their situation. It was amazing, really, how he could flip fear into a sense of community strength. And for the first time, she realized, he was someone she could trust more than just as a business partner. "Hey," she called out to him as he finished his huddle, relief coursing through her. "You're doing great. You've got them inspired." Nathaniel flashed a quick smile, the tension in his brow easing slightly. "We're in this together, remember? Your strength motivates me." Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed again, pulling her attention. She stepped aside, her heart sinking. The number was unknown, and the voice on the other end was shaky. As the words sank in, her stomach churned. "Sarah, there's something you need to know," the voice said. "About the fires, it's bigger than we thought." Panic surged through her. "What are you talking about? They're not just random. There's someone behind it all, someone who doesn't want them to stop." She quickened her breath as she heard an explosion of activity in the gym, voices rising in distress as people processed information, a mixture of hope and fear swirling in the atmosphere. She glanced back at Nathaniel, his brow knitted with concern as he looked at her, sensing something was wrong. "Sarah?" he asked, closing the distance between them. "There's more happening. We need to be careful," she stuttered, the weight of the truth hanging like a lead weight in her chest. His determination faltered, but he quickly composed himself. "Then let us find out everything we can. We'll sift through the details together." But doubt crept in. She wondered what secrets were buried beneath this newfound unity. Were they truly ready to face a hidden enemy, one that could shatter the fragile bond they were trying to create? The stakes had suddenly escalated far beyond their original intentions as they steeled themselves to plunge deeper into this fight. Sarah couldn't shake off the questions swirling in her mind. Was unity enough when facing something so dark? And at what cost would their togetherness come? The gym buzzed with renewed energy, but Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet. It was clear they were standing at the brink of a revelation, and she had no idea how deep the truth went. "Whatever comes next, we face it together," Nathaniel said, grounding her amidst the turmoil. But what were they truly up against? And with each passing moment, the shadows grew longer around them. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to shake off the dread clinging to her. The gym was abuzz, everyone diving into their roles, each conversation adding to the collective resolve. Yet, her heart felt heavy. She knew the moment had come to confront the shadows behind the fires, both outside and within her own community. As she looked at the gathering faces lit by determination, she felt hope intertwined with fear. How could they know what truly lurked in the darkness? The idea of an orchestrator behind the chaos was gnawing at her, like a whisper urging her to dig deeper. "Let us start by gathering information," Nathaniel suggested, his voice breaking through her thoughts. "We need a way to communicate openly about what we learn. This can't be just about saving buildings. It's about protecting lives." Sarah nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude toward him. His heart was in the right place. They gathered a few volunteers, their faces a mix of seriousness and purpose. They launched into discussions about channels they could establish for sharing intel quickly. Social media groups, community boards, and even town hall meetings. Ideas spun through the air like leaves caught in a whirlwind. "Why don't we set up a central meeting point?" One of the volunteers piped up, a senior member of the community with decades of experience. "Where folks can come if they see something suspicious or feel endangered. I can help coordinate." "That's perfect," Nathaniel encouraged, and Sarah felt relief spike. They were planting seeds of resilience. Amidst the gloom, community bonds were knitting together tighter than ever. She could feel the energy shifting. Unity was becoming actionable. Yet, as the discussions ripened, the back of her mind buzzed with that unknown threat. The mention of a person behind the fires felt like a boulder lodged in her throat. These were not wildfires in the way they assumed, and if someone was playing a game of destruction, they had to tread carefully. "Sarah, can I talk to you?" Nathaniel's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. She turned, seeing his concern etched in his features. "You look a bit pale. I can tell something is bothering you." She forced a smile, but it felt weak. It's just the weight of all this. And what that call hinted at. I mean, if we're up against someone, what do? How do we keep everyone safe? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. We'll figure it out. But right now, let's not let fear drive our actions. If we're going to stand against whoever this is, we need to stay proactive. His reassurance struck a chord in her, and as they gazed into each other's eyes, she felt a connection deepen. There was something grounding about his presence, a spark of hope amid uncertainty. She nodded slowly. Okay, together. But what if I develop a plan not just for communication, but also for evacuation? If things go south, great idea. Let us consider the routes and what shelters are available. We need to prepare every angle. Nathaniel's enthusiasm was contagious. Her fists clenched with renewed determination. The words they exchanged felt sharper, more intentional. But each plan unveiled its own intricacies. And as they discussed various options, Sarah couldn't shake off a nagging fear. What would happen if panic did set in? Could they hold their community together in such dire circumstances? As the two worked through contingencies, the noise in the gym began to fade surrounding them. A bubble of shared purpose enveloped them. It wasn't just about survival now. It was about lifting spirits and bolstering the hearts of everyone involved. But just then, a sudden commotion broke through. You all need to come quick. A voice yelled, cutting through the collective focus. The wildness of the urgency sent chills down Sarah's spine. What is it? Nathaniel asked, tension tightening his features. I think someone saw smoke out by the old mill. They exchanged glances, comprehension dawning on them. The moment they had been dreading might already be upon them. Time was of the essence. Would they be ready to face the flames, both literally and metaphorically? With racing hearts, they turned and ran toward the door, the collective dread propelling them into the unknown. The storm was here, and Sarah knew that undeniable truth. Something was about to ignite. Was it just fires on the outskirts, or was the real danger lurking far closer than they anticipated? The gym doors swung open, and the fresh air felt jarring against Sarah's skin. The moment they stepped outside, the chaos from inside faded, replaced by the world outside their sanctuary. The night sky painted itself in streaks of orange and gray, smoke billowing from beyond the tree-line like a sinister specter. People filled the parking lot, voices overlapping in a cacophony of worry. Stay together, Nathaniel shouted, grabbing Sarah's arm as they pushed through the crowd. We need to stay organized. The panic was palpable, faces twisted in concern as they hurried to their cars, some fumbling to grab supplies, others already dialing for help. They finally reached the edge of the lot, where a few community members stood, their expressions a mix of fear and resolve. Which way to the old mill? Nathaniel asked, scanning the growing cloud of smoke. Just down the road. Gotta hurry, came the frantic reply from a woman clutching her child tightly. Without thinking, Sarah was already moving. Let us go, she urged, feeling adrenaline surge through her. They sprinted toward the road, the urgency of their mission pushing them onward. As they ran, her mind raced with the implications of what was happening. Fires could endanger everything: their homes, their families, their very sense of security. But if there was an arsonist behind it all, a knot tightened in her stomach. Nathaniel kept pace beside her, his presence like a steady anchor. Keep your eyes open for anyone in distress. We have to ensure the safety of everyone, he reminded her, his voice cutting through the din. They reached a clearing near the old mill, the burning glow lighting up the trees like a macabre chandelier. A small group of people stood nearby, some pointing, others shouting for help. Sarah's heart raced as she spotted a few familiar faces, neighbors and friends looking for answers. Is anyone trapped? She yelled, hoping her voice would carry over the frenzy. Not trapped, but the wind is shifting, replied an older man, his face smeared with soot. We saw debris flying. People almost got hurt. Nathaniel and Sarah exchanged quick glances, unspoken determination coursing between them. We need a head count, Sarah shouted back. Anyone who can, let us check around. The group nodded, urgency overtaking their initial shock. People began fanning out, looking for anyone who might need help. Sarah felt a surge of strength as she began coordinating the search. As they moved, the fire crackled ominously, and with each step closer, fear clung to her like a second skin. She couldn't shake the thought that the fires had a mind of their own. Who could do something so terrible? She needed to focus. Her community needed her. Suddenly, Nathaniel called her name, urgency filling his tone. She turned to see him coming toward her, breathless with worry. "Sarah, we found someone, an old man, lost in the woods. He said he saw someone near the mill before it started burning." Her chest tightened. "Did he see who?" "No, just someone in a hoodie, but we need to get him out." His eyes were wide, concern etched deep into his features. "Let us go then. We can't leave him." But as they made their way back toward the woods, Sarah felt something shift beneath her. A sinister gust whipped through the trees, carrying whispers with it. The world began to slip into chaos, and the urgency felt almost insurmountable. What if they were racing against not just flames, but a hidden force? What if? Sarah started, glancing at Nathaniel. What if what? He pressed, his breath heavy. What if this is just the beginning? Her words hung in the air like smoke, an unsettling truth that laced their quest with uncertainty. As they plunged deeper into the timber, the shadows grew longer. Each step felt like a countdown, pushing them closer to a confrontation they couldn't yet see. What lay ahead, waiting to reveal itself in the growing darkness? The underbrush crackled underfoot, branches snapping as the weight of fear pressed down on Sarah and Nathaniel. With each hurried step, the smoke coiled tighter around them, a warning of dangers lurking just out of sight. "Sarah, we need to stick together," Nathaniel urged, his voice barely piercing through the uproar around them. "If the old man is lost, we can't afford to split up." Her heart raced. "Right, okay. Just keep moving." They paused at a fork in the narrow path where shadows danced under the flickering light of the distant flames. The dense trees seemed to breathe, exhaling wisps of smoke that enveloped them like a dark shroud. "Old man," Nathaniel shouted, his voice echoing through the woods. "Where are you?" Silence blanketed the area, thick and heavy. The only sound was the distant crackling of fire. Then, out of the stillness, came a soft whimper. "Did you hear that?" Sarah's breath quickened as she moved toward the sound. "Yeah, let us go," Nathaniel said, leading the way with renewed urgency. They pushed past fronds and tufts of grass, and there in a small clearing, huddled by a gnarled tree, was the old man, his clothes torn and smeared with soot. "There you are," Sarah exclaimed, rushing toward him. "We're here to help you." He looked up, eyes wide but blank. "I couldn't find my way." The smoke, his voice cracked, fear lacing each word. "I thought I wouldn't get out." "Let us get you home," Nathaniel said, kneeling beside him. "Can you get up?" With a shaky nod, the old man grasped Nathaniel's arm, his frail body trembling as he stood. "Wait, how did you end up here?" Sarah asked as he leaned heavily on Nathaniel. "I was just out walking when I saw the fire start. I thought I could help," but his gaze flickered to the growing blaze in the distance, despair creeping back into his features. "We all want to help," Sarah said, glancing at Nathaniel. "But we need to get you to safety first." Suddenly, a loud crash resounded behind them, sending a shower of sparks into the night. They turned as branches above fell, a fiery cascade that broke the fragile stillness, throwing panic back into their hearts. "Run!" Nathaniel yelled, instinctively leading the group away from danger. Adrenaline surged through Sarah's veins as they sprinted back toward the path they had come from. The air grew thicker with each step, the stench of smoke crawling into her lungs. Yet, focusing on the old man gave her strength, pushing her through the haze of panic. "Nathaniel, go ahead. I'll help him," she shouted over her shoulder. "No way. We stick together," he insisted, but she could see the fear in his eyes. "Just trust me," Sarah pressed, helping the old man shuffle forward while feeling Nathaniel's hesitant gaze behind them. The old man gasped, clutching his chest as they moved. "I can't keep up." "You can. Just a bit further," Sarah shouted, spurring them onward. Each step felt like an uphill battle, but Sarah couldn't abandon him. She looked at Nathaniel, whose face showed reluctance but also respect for her choice. "Fine." He relented, glancing backward with every step. "We'll push together." Together, they managed to guide the old man until they broke free of the trees and into bright lights where a group had gathered. Faces turned toward them, a mix of relief and concern. "There they are," someone cried, rushing forward to help. But as they stepped into the open, Sarah's heart sank. Eyes roamed the crowd, searching. The man in the hoodie, the one they hadn't seen, wasn't there. "Where's the firefighter?" one of the villagers shouted, Panic lacing her voice, the crowd came alive with worry. A sense of dread washed over Sarah. This wasn't over. The flames might be tamed, but shadows still lingered. Sarah, look. Nathaniel pointed. The panic faded from her expression as her gaze fell upon a figure lurking at the edge of the trees, slipping away into the darkness. Who is that? She whispered, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them again. The night was still burning bright, but the true threat felt closer than ever. What were they up against now? As the figure vanished into the gloom, Sarah felt a cold shiver run down her spine. They had saved one life, but the battle was far from over. Sarah, we can't lose sight of them, Nathaniel shouted, his voice strained as he scanned the darkness where the figure had disappeared. The chatter from the crowd around them was unsettling, punctuated by frantic voices asking for information, questions no one could answer. Sarah clutched the old man's arm tightly, her fingers trembling from the weight of unrest that hung thick in the air. The flickering firelight danced off their worried faces, illuminating glimpses of fear and confusion, shrouding the warmth of relief they just felt. We need to know who that was, Sarah said, tightening her grip on the old man as he leaned heavily against her. Did you see where they went? The old man shook his head, his eyes darting to the trees, breath coming in quick bursts. I am sorry. I was just trying to find my way back. His voice cracked again, the shadow of the flames reflecting his frailty. Let us get you to safety, Nathaniel urged, his face set with determination. He gestured to the crowd. We need to help him first. Then we can figure this out. A group of villagers approached, concern etched across their faces. They quickly took over, helping the old man onto a makeshift stretcher and promising to take him to the nearest clinic. But Sarah's attention remained fixed on the tree lean, shadows writhing like sentient beings, concealing the answer to her unease. Nathaniel, what if that person knows something? She muttered, her heart pounding against her ribcage. I know, but we can't just. He hesitated, caught between the urgency of the situation and the instinct to chase after the unknown. We should at least let someone know to look for them. She nodded, a plan crystallizing in her mind. You stay with the others. I'm going to find out who they are. I'll be back. Before Nathaniel could voice his frustration, Sarah turned, slipping back into the dense underbrush. The smoke still hung thickly in the air, but her resolve burned brighter. Every step deeper into the shadows stoked her determination. Memory flickered painfully a time when she'd been lost in her own life. She couldn't shake the feeling that whoever this figure was, they too were searching for something. She moved cautiously, keeping her ears peeled for any sounds, any clues as to what might be lurking in the depths of the woods. The crackling of branches beneath her feet amplified her heartbeat, each thump echoing her fears. Then, a muted rustle stopped her. She froze, breath held tight in her chest as a small figure emerged no taller than a child. A girl, dirty and disheveled, her wide brown eyes glimmering with fear. Please don't hurt me, the girl said, voice trembling. I'm not here to hurt you, Sarah whispered, her heart softening. Are you lost? The girl nodded, tears streaking her soot-covered cheeks. I was with my dad when the fire started. He told me to run. I didn't know where to go. Panic crashed in Sarah's chest, joining forces with the fire that still raged outside. We can help you find him. What does he look like? As the girl described her father, Sarah felt a wave of understanding wash over her. Something clicked within, as though this was more than just about fire and smoke. This moment carried weight, a connection threaded through desperation. I promise we're going to find him, Sarah reassured, kneeling in front of the girl. But first, we need to get you to safety. She reached out, offering her hand, and the girl hesitated for just a moment before taking it. Can you run with me? Sarah asked, feeling a rush of purpose. They started back toward the lights, hearts pounding in sync. But as they drew closer to the village, the chatter escalated. More voices, more urgency. Where are you going? Someone shouted from behind them. We need to get her to her father. Sarah called back, glancing down at the girl, who was now running beside her, determination twinkling in her eyes. But then they reached the clearing, and what awaited them sent a chill down Sarah's spine. There in the center stood Nathaniel, his expression a mix of dread and disbelief. Oh no, he murmured, pointing ahead. And at the edge of the crowd stood the figure from before, now illuminated by the firelight, a man, with a familiar face that churned up feelings of recognition in Sarah. "Who are you?" she whispered, her pulse quickening as the truth clawed its way to the surface. With hearts racing and uncertainty shrouding them, they had intercepted something profound. Whatever lay ahead, it was clear the night was far from over, and the very fabric of their own lives lay tangled in the heat of the unfolding mystery. What does he mean to us? Sarah thought, a chill wrapping around her heart. As shadows loomed, she could feel the dark secrets drawing closer. If only they could uncover the truth before it swallowed them whole. The crowd swirled around Sarah, a mass of confusion and fear, but her focus remained trained on the figure before her. This man, with the familiar face she couldn't place yet, had an intensity that made her heart race. She looked back at Nathaniel, who stood frozen, disbelief etched on his features. "Do you know him?" Nathaniel finally managed to ask, his voice just above a whisper. I think I do," Sarah breathed out, confusion mixing with a flicker of hope. Memories began to flood in images of a distant past, a connection she thought was buried with time. The figures in the crowd began to part, clearing a path toward them. As the man stepped forward, Sarah noted the way he studied the girl holding her hand, an urgency in his eyes. "Where is she?" he called out desperately, his voice cutting through the thickening tension like a knife. "That is her dad," Sarah exclaimed, pointing to the man, relief washing over her. "Your daddy is here." The girl's eyes widened, recognition flooding in as she pulled away from Sarah, rushing toward her father. "Daddy." The reunion was fragile, yet powerful, a small body, crashing into the arms of a man who looked like he'd been through a storm. Sarah's heart leapt with a bittersweet twinge, while Nathaniel looked on, lost in thought. Thank you," he murmured to Sarah, eyes glistening as he embraced his daughter. The little girl sobbed softly into his shoulder, the last vestiges of fear dissipating like smoke in the wind. But Sarah's gaze remained focused on the man. "Do I know you?" she asked, stepping hesitantly toward them. "Is it David? David Brooks?" The man's face shifted, surprise lighting his features. "Yes, and you must be Sarah," he replied, recognition dawning as he took a step nearer, the warmth of familiarity suffusing the space between them. "Is it really you?" Her heart sank for a brief moment, as a sense of longing crackled beneath the surface. This was more than just a chance encounter. This was a thread binding the years together, one she thought had long been severed. "We thought I was lost." David's smile flickered, then vanished as he looked over her shoulder, eyes darkening. "I didn't know I had a child until the fire. I've been searching everywhere." "What do you mean?" Sarah pulled him aside, her heart pounding. "Searching for what?" "I learned that I'm a father, but everything changed so fast. And now, it's all caught up in this." He jerked his head back at the chaos surrounding the village, making her realize there was more at play here. The air was heavy with unsaid words. Around them, the villagers were still trying to process the chaos, but her focus was pulled back to David. "You don't have to do this alone," she said quietly, empathy threading through her desperation to understand. "I thought I had everything, a career, money, but it doesn't mean anything without them." His eyes filled with a mixture of hope and helplessness, revealing an internal battle. The sudden noise erupted behind them, tearing her attention away. A massive uproar sounded as more villagers rushed toward the light, panic in their voices. Nathaniel turned sharply, ready to react. "Something else is happening," he warned, eyes scanning the woods as a handful of figures staggered from the darkness. The atmosphere thickened with dread, an unrecognizable fear coursing through the crowd. Sarah shook her head, shock racing through her. "What now?" "I'll find out." David turned toward the encroaching figures. "No, it's not safe," Sarah shouted, grabbing his arm, but he pulled back, determination shining in his eyes. "Someone has to. I can't run away anymore." With those words, a wave of nostalgia hit her. They were both lost in this world of uncertainty, but something about this felt different. Could it be a chance for redemption? For connection? For hope? In that moment, she made a choice. "I'm going with you," she declared, heart pounding as if it was finally taking flight. Before she could second-guess herself, they plunged into the thickening chaos together, leaving Nathaniel behind to process the weight of what had just unfolded. The stakes had risen dramatically, and uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud overhead. What secrets were hidden in those approaching figures? And had they truly unearthed the past, or were they marching headfirst into a greater darkness? As Sarah and David ventured toward the looming figures, the air became electric with tension, every step tinged with fear and adrenaline. The shadows danced against the flickering flames, making the approach feel like a descent into the unknown. Nathaniel's voice echoed in her mind an anchor, a reminder of their shared goal. But this felt personal, a journey back to something she thought lost. The figures emerged, revealing a mix of townspeople and a few unrecognizable faces. The chatter swelled, a cacophony of confusion mingled with hesitant excitement. "What is happening?" A woman called, breaths quickening as they neared. "Is it over?" Another shouted, urgency etched into their features. David stepped forward, an instinctive protector. "Let us hear what they have to say," he said, his voice fighting through the thick air. Sarah caught a glimpse of determination in his eyes. It mirrored much of what she felt bubbling beneath her own. When they reached the others, they discovered a group of local firefighters mingling with a few unknown figures, faces grim under the harsh lights. "We're getting reports. There are still flames near the woods, a different kind of fire, fueled by something sinister," one of the firefighters said, his tone laced with urgency. A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. As they listened, fragments of the truth began to unfold. "There are rumors of someone sabotaging the mill," the firefighter continued. "They might be trying to incite fear to draw us out." Chairs were knocked over, voices rising in panic. Tensions surged, reminding her of how fragile their unity had become. "What now?" The crowd erupted, questions swirling like smoke. Sarah felt the heat of uncertainty rise again. Weave stood against fires before. She shouted, forcefully trying to hold the group together. "But if this is more than just flames, we need to tackle the root of it. Together." The room quieted, eyes turning toward her as she summoned every ounce of conviction in her heart. David stepped beside her, aligning with her resolve. "We've battled too many storms tonight. Whatever is lurking, we will face it as a community. Our bonds are strong." The solidarity started to ignite hope. Glances exchanged, determination dawning. People were ready to fight back together. The group began to brainstorm, creating a plan that drew from the strength of every person present. As the plan unfolded, Sarah felt a strange wave of peace wash over her. But just as resolve built momentum, the shadows around them shifted. Silence fell, punctuated solely by the crackling of fire. A soft rustle joined the air, and slowly, they turned, facing the stress-testing reality of their fears. In the back of the crowd, Nathaniel approached, his eyes scanning the horizon, a spark of inspiration igniting within him. "We need to set up watch shifts. A line of communication at all times," he declared, his voice steady. Sarah watched him, an unexpected fire of admiration igniting in her chest. This was the Nathaniel she'd begun forging, an unexpected connection with one that spoke to her heart. The ideas flowed freely now, everyone contributing to the formation of a united front. They organized a system for monitoring the reactor, ensuring their safety while keeping communication constantly flowing. Every face glimmered with newfound purpose. "Whatever darkness lurks, we won't let it divide us," David said, rallying the crowd with his fierce determination. The atmosphere shifted, each member embodying the spirit of resilience. It reminded Sarah that strong roots could withstand whatever storm came. As plans transformed into action, she turned to Nathaniel, who was getting everyone organized. "Thank you for believing in this," she said earnestly. His smile was shy but genuine. "You inspire me, Sarah. This community, it's incredible." From where they stood, the flames shifted in the distance, illuminating faces set with determination. Hope began to blossom despite the uncertainty. "Let us go," Sarah shouted, a hand slipping into David's as they moved to gather supplies. The night pulsated with energy and anticipation. Just then, a shout echoed from the edge of the clearing. "They're coming." "What? Who?" Another voice yelled. The group turned, adrenaline surging as they saw figures emerging from the shadows, familiar faces, some they hadn't seen in ages. Friends, neighbors, even those who had distanced themselves during the chaos. They moved forward, extending hands in solidarity. It was apparent they wouldn't be facing this alone. The entire town stood on the precipice of change, ready to fight for their lives, as the truth settled into their hearts. Sarah felt the deep-rooted ties of community weaving them together, stronger than any fire or divide. She turned, gripping David's hand a little tighter. The night air was thick with potential and possibilities. "Let us protect what we've built," Nathaniel announced, his eyes sparkling with determination. "Let us change our story." With hearts fused by purpose and community, they rushed toward the front line of their new battle. The flames danced behind them, as Sarah finally embraced a feeling she thought was lost long ago: hope. Together, they drew breath, hands intertwined, ready for the dawn of a new beginning. Sarah's heart raced with the beautiful vision of unity before her as they faced the darkness. It wasn't over, but it was definitely the start of something extraordinary. Now, the challenge was clear. They were ready to reclaim their lives. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.